You're listening to the MMA Brothers Podcast, coming to you from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Your source for UFC news, previews, and post-fight coverage. Hosted by your favorite duo, Daryl and Asher. Let's get it started.
What's up, guys? Asher back with another episode of the MMA Brothers Podcast, and I'm back with Gabe. Gabe, what's going on?
Not much, man. How are you?
Good. So we got some Alistair Overeem versus Alexander Volkov happening this weekend. Wanted to break down a little bit of Overeem's skills. Is he washed up? Is he somebody that's going to be fighting for a title soon? Just for those who don't know, Alistair Overeem has won his last two fights. His fight against Walt Harris and his fight against Augustus Sakai were his only fights in 2020, and he won both of those fights. Before that, he fought Jorginho Rosenstruik, which, pretty much he won that fight until like the last 5 seconds when he got knocked out. So he's been on a roll, you know what I mean? Like, I know he had the Curtis Blades loss, it was more than like a year ago, but since then, like, he beat Oleinik, and then he lost to Jorginho, but then he beat Walt Harris, and now he beat who was the last guy I mentioned? Augusto Sakai. So what do you think about Overeem? Do you think he's done? Do you think he's still got something left in the tank, or what do you expect from him?
Yeah, I mean, if he keeps winning, then he's still in the title contentions, right? Because I mean, when you get to that age, I think he's 40 now, eh? He just turned 40 last year. He'll be 41 this year. He's still in, pretty good shape. But when you get to that age, if you keep winning, they'll keep you on because they can't really do anything with you. If you keep winning, it's like you're going through the division. But the minute you lose, the promotion kind of has to move on, right? You're not 25 anymore where you can lose a couple fights and then bounce back, win some more, lose a couple, right? You're kind of at the end of your career. So if he beats Volkov, which he has to, if he doesn't beat Volkov, then he might still fight, but I don't see him being in title contentions. He might kind of just, put on some good shows to finish off his career. But if he keeps winning, if he beats Volkov and then he goes on, to beat the other guys in the top 10, top 5, then why not? Why not fight for a title? He's still active. He's still proving himself. So why not? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with so as you can see in the beginning of the fight, Dan Hooker obviously was very, very kick heavy. I'm sure like he knows that he had a kicking advantage in terms of his leg reach compared to Michael Chandler, but Michael Chandler is obviously a guy that kind of likes to put the pressure forward, and he just wouldn't let Hooker breathe, Yeah.
If you pause it just for a second right there,
Mm-hmm.
if you go back a little, well, it's already happened a couple times throughout the highlights, but what you'll see is Chandler's been repeatedly going to the body. He's repeatedly been using that right cross to the body, and it's for a very specific reason. Hooker going to this fight had the superior reach advantage. It's no question there. He's 6 foot. Chandler's 5'8". I don't know the wingspan, but height and reach was in Hooker's favor, right? So as a shorter fighter, your best bet is to get on the inside. You're not going to win a striking exchange from the outside. You need to get inside. And what you already see is Chandler's already been either blocking or hopping out from Hooker's kicks because Hooker's trying to maintain that range with his kicks. You've seen it a few times there, like you said, and Chandler's either, hopped out or swept him to the side, right? And then you see him keep going to the body. He keeps going to the body, right? And I'll let you keep playing the video, but I'll kind of tie it into how the fight finishes here.
Yep. Oh, that leg kick looked like it messed up Chandler, actually.
So right there. So yeah, that one leg kick did kind of, tingle him a little bit, right? But you look at that finishing sequence, right? He goes to the body again, and then he goes for that hook to put him to sleep, okay? As a shorter fighter, that's probably one of the most I wouldn't say I don't know how to put it, but Chandler pretty much baited him the entire fight because really all he threw is that right cross to the body. He kept throwing the right cross. And what eventually happens is Hooker, whether or not he's expecting it or not, he's going to react to it somehow. He's going to react to that right cross to the body. And what you see there in the finishing sequence is Chandler throws it again, But this time he throws that hook when Hooker has his hands down and puts him to sleep. But all the other times, Chandler's just going cross and then bouncing out. He's a very explosive fighter. That's one of his biggest assets is he's explosive. And so as a shorter fighter, he's able to bounce in and out very fast, right? And he makes him untouchable. So even though like a lot of people were saying, oh, well, why did Hooker lose? He has the reach advantage. Reach doesn't mean anything if you can't maintain it. If a guy's always working inside of you, you're losing. A shorter fighter, it's like Mike Tyson. He would always rip those body shots, right? And then finally go for like the finishing hook to the head. It's because once a shorter fighter is inside of a tall fighter, there's no advantage anymore. You can't throw punches down on a guy like this when the shorter fighter is ripping you on the inside. So as you saw here, Hooker kept getting these body shots, and then he wasn't expecting the hook on the last one, and that's what put him to sleep. So
100%.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, it reminds me of the whole John Jones, Daniel Cormier situation. I don't know if you remember when John Jones kept kicking him in the body. This was in the second fight, right? He kept throwing body kicks. And then I think it was the third round, because it went into the third round in that fight. And when John Jones went to the head, right?
Yeah.
Because like DC is expecting him to go to the body. He kind of put his hands on his body like this, and then boom, right to the head, right? And then say, he's stunned, right? So exact same thing like he explained here, right? Chandler keeps throwing straights to the body, he keeps throwing them. And then Hooker obviously continued to expect them to come to the body. And then like when he came to the body this time, he put his hands down to kind of like block the punch, then came right over the top with that left hook. And
he reacted.
Reacted. So I'm sure that like Hooker's game plan was to just focus on the leg kicks to start off the fight. And then I'm sure he'd have got his hands involved more later as the fight progressed. But like I think the pressure that Chandler was putting on him was just too much to handle to start, So but then obviously in hindsight's 2020, right? We can all sit here and say like, oh, he should have done this or he should have done that.
Yeah.
At the time, if it went to the second round, we could have said like Hooker had the perfect game plan, man. Like everything he was doing was working to a T. But because he got knocked out, then everybody's like, dude, what the hell are you doing? Like you should have like fought better. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's tough, man. So what do you think is next for Chandler now that he's got his first one in the UFC?
Well, I would have to kind of agree with Poirier in a way, saying he shouldn't fight for the title right away. Chandler was a champion in Bellator. Bellator is a great promotion. Lots of people kind of hack on it, but there's a lot of great talent in Bellator. But I would say, honestly, I'd like to see Chandler and Gaethje. I think that would be a really good fight. That would be a war. I don't see that one ending in round one like this one. I see that one being a 5-round war, kind of like when Chandler, I believe, well, both of the Alvarez fights went deep. He lost one, won one, but they went pretty far. They didn't quite go the distance, but they went far, and it was a bloodbath. So I think him and Gaethje would be a really entertaining fight. And then if he beats Gaethje decisively, why not put him in a title fight, right? Depending who's in the running there. But I definitely have to agree with Dustin that he should probably fight, 1 or 2 more fights to really cement himself in there, right? I mean, I think is he number 4 now? They changed the rankings on Monday.
I haven't checked the rankings yet, but
They shuffled up a bit, and Chandler, because he was non-ranked, and now I think he's 4. Yeah, he's 4, Ferguson's 5, Connor's 6. So that's kind of how they shuffled it. But yeah, I mean, I just want to see him fight, man. Like, I don't want to see him win the belt and then be like, okay, I won the UFC title and like I've done all I need to do. I want to see him, have a couple fights and really put the division on notice, right? So if he beats Gaethje, after that, maybe 1 more fight and then the title, or who knows, it could be the title next. The UFC kind of just does whatever they want to do. So whoever he fights, it's gonna be bombs. So
yeah, I mean. Chandler could face RDA. Chandler could face Oliveira. He could face Poirier. It all depends on the direction that the UFC wants to go with him, right? But who knows? I mean, if he does win his next fight, even if it's not for a title, he could find himself fighting for a title by the end of the year if he does decide to fight at least 3 times this year. So The future is looking good for him. It was a hot start. Obviously, that's if you want to have the best start in the UFC, a first round KO is not a bad way to get it done, right? So,
Over a number
um,
6 guy.
yeah, exactly. So, especially against a durable guy like Dan Hooker, like I
I
don't know
know.
when the last time Dan Hooker has been punched once and then he went down like that, right? So,
Not often.
yeah,
Yeah.
not often. That guy has a chin on him. But anyways, that's our breakdown for the Michael Chandler versus the Dan Hooker fight. We're gonna hit you with another episode breaking down what we think about Alistair Overeem against his fight against Volkov, which is not happening this weekend, but next weekend. Us UFC fans have to cry. We don't have any fights this weekend, which is unfortunate. But look out for another breakdown for that fight, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks, Gabe. They may have two separate.
Oh, no. Yeah, because February is Usman and Burns, and then March is Izzy and Blachowicz with the 2 other title fights. Maybe it is a double. Maybe there is 2 that month. I can't remember.
Yeah, I mean that's dope. Yeah, because
That'd be
March
a good
7th.
month.
You're right. You're right. Actually, yeah, they are. So Jan Blachowicz and Israel Adesanya are the main event of the
Yeah,
Nunes versus Anderson, and then Peter Yan versus Sterling. And
yeah.
then later that month, UFC 260, March 28th, is Stipe Miocic versus Ngannou, and Volkanovski versus Brian Ortega. So we
Man,
have five title fights in a
that's
month.
insane. That's
Excuse me.
insane.
Yeah, we have 5 title fights in a month, which is going to be insane. UFC fight fans are going to be jizzing their pants at that.
Christmas.
Yeah, Merry
Red
Christmas.
panty night.
Yeah, Red Fanny Night. It's like an early Easter gift or something, which is
Yeah,
insane. 5 title fights in a month. Oh my God.
that's crazy.
That's going to be a lot of previews and talking and stuff, which is obviously totally cool with us because we enjoy the sport. But just a
Yeah,
little bit about Volkov before we end this. Volkov obviously is a guy that has, striking ability.
yep,
Who did he finish recently? He finished Walt Harris, right? So,
yes, yeah.
which was sad to see because Walt Harris has now lost his last 2 fights against Overeem and then against Volkov, and obviously everybody knows his story. Um, so I'm sure a lot of people are rooting for obviously Harris, but this is another episode. But going back to Volkov, Volkov he beat Greg Hardy, he beat Walt Harris, and then he beat another guy recently. Who was the third guy he beat?
Uh, Let
I
me
can't
check my.
remember. I can double check it, but pretty much they're both on a roll. Overeem has won his last 2. Volkov, I'm pretty sure he's won his last 3. Um, and yeah, one of them is gonna have to take an L in this fight in order
He,
to.
he beat Harris, but then he lost to Blades before that,
Oh, okay.
and then he
Yeah,
beat
yeah.
before that, and then he lost to Lewis before that, and then he beat Fabricio before that. So that's my thing with Volkov is he's kind of. I mean, you could argue Overeem at this point too, but I think Volkov is even more inconsistent. Like, he has the potential to be a great fighter, but he wins then loses, wins and loses. It makes it very hard to make a case to be a title contender when you win. Like, and he'll beat, top contenders, but then he'll also lose. Like going back to 2018 against Derek Lewis, like, dude, you're winning the whole fight, and then 17 seconds left, you get knocked out. Like, you should be on defensive mode at that point. You have the rounds racked up. You don't need to get reckless. I get it's a fight, but stuff like that, it just makes me kind of wonder if he really has the potential to be a champion. He does use his strikes very well. He is very tall. He uses his reach very well too, but he's inconsistent for me. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Overeem, I guess, is slightly more consistent than Volkov because, like, I
A
mean,
little.
losing to Curtis Blades, like, everybody kind of expected that. It's like a striker versus wrestler matchup.
Yeah.
The Derek Lewis loss was tough because he won that fight until like the last 10 seconds when he should have just been moving around the octagon. He got clipped.
The
Um,
balls was hot.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, the future is still kind of bright for Volkov, but he just needs to get a little bit consistent in terms of his record. But in terms of picking this fight, you want to do some early picks where you pick him between Volkov and Overeem?
Uh, Man, it's hard because it's kind of like you said, right? Alistair's a little bit more consistent, but not by much, right? He's also aging. It's the heavyweight division, like we said. Anyone can get knocked out on any given night. Doesn't matter how good your chin is. Volkov, though, he's inconsistent too, but he's maybe a little bit more I don't know, maybe he's just a little bit more durable. But to be honest, like Alistair looks like he's in great shape. Even the other fights that he lost, like even like the fight to Blades, he's still in great shape for 40, 41, right? So it's really hard to pick this. How about you go first and I'll think?
Yeah, so for this one, I think Volkov, both of them have very, very high like striking pedigrees, right? Overeem has, he pretty much been there, done that in Muay Thai, kickboxing, boxing, whatever. He's done everything that you can in regards to striking. And then Volkov is the same. His Muay Thai is like amazing, and the thing is, his height and reach are very, very tough to deal with. So, I do want to pick Volkov because I just think that Volkov, especially if you don't have a wrestling threat or you don't have like a heavy punching power threat coming towards him, then he's going to be the favorite to win this fight. I do think Overeem is going to obviously try and incorporate some of his grappling and his wrestling to get the fight down to the floor, because Volkov does not have the best takedown defense. So I'm sure Overeem is going to want to test that. And Overeem does have some good takedowns. So if the fight obviously goes to the ground, I'm picking Volkov to win it. Both fighters are not known for like being cardio machines, but it is a 5-round fight. So I'm going to pick Volkov to win it. I feel weird saying it, but I'm picking Volkov. How about you?
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree. See, it depends for me. Like if it ends up being like a ground and pound domination, like was it who is his name that completely like blew up Anthony Smith on the ground?
Glover?
Yeah, Glover. Yeah. If it becomes like a Glover Teixeira, beat down, or a Habib beat down on the ground, just ground and pound, I'm going to take Alistair. If it's a 5-round, technical striking match, most likely Volkov. He's got that world-class Muay Thai background behind him. He's a very good striker. They're both good strikers, but I would say if Volkov picks his shots properly, I could see it going either the distance or a late round knockout, depending like how weathered Alistair is. But if it goes to the ground, I think Alistair is just going to pound him to sleep. So it's going to be interesting. I don't really know who to pick. I'm kind of like, to me, this fight, I'm not super excited for it because right now I don't really see a future for either of them, fighting for the belt really in the near future. I'm excited, as a martial artist to watch, technique and styles and see who comes out on top. But in regards to, it's like we talked about earlier with Jones, right? He's going to come in here and he's going to kind of, be dictating like who's fighting who next, right? Depending on how he does. And then obviously with Miocic and Ngannou. But for me, like Alistair, he's one loss away from not being really relevant for a title anymore. If he loses, he's not really in the contentions. And then Volkov, it's hard to say. He's just so inconsistent. So we'll see what happens. I'm still going to tune in. The rest of the card's really good too. So it's going to be a good night.
Yeah, definitely going to be a good night. We're going to have to break down the other fights maybe next week at some point before we get closer to the card. So Thanks again for, your insight and knowledge. I really appreciate it. And guys, thank you for listening and watching this video. We'll obviously hit you with the preview, like I said, for next week's main event for the full card. So you guys will be able to find out our opinions on who's going to be winning the rest of those fights. So thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for listening to the MMA Brothers Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please give us a follow on our socials. You can check out a description of this episode for more, but don't forget to connect with us on Instagram at MMA Brothers Pod. We'll see you on the next episode.